So on October 14th, 2018, I was walking with my dog Max, and and then Tim was walking with me a little bit too. And the Gangstalking / terrorist group were doing this thing where they were speaking through Tim, and Tim wasn't aware of it. And he was like, "Stay here, kid. Like, stay here. You have to stay here." And like, it felt very strange and very unusual. So I just kept walking. A few minutes later, I'm being shocked on the side of the road near Tower Road, I believe, in Manor. And the Gangstalking / terrorist group likes to manufacture coincidences. So they were like, "Ooh, you used to live on Tower Trail, and now you're near Tower Road, where this other incident is taking place." Well, the Travis County Sheriff officers, or Travis County Sheriff's Department, showed up, and I rapidly was being shocked, and uh, and Max was panting as well, and he needed water, and I desperately needed water. And again, like, I wasn't dehydrated, a few minutes before that. I had only been out of the, walking. I had only been away from the house for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes at most, and I was getting liquids just fine. I wasn't on anything. I wasn't high. Wasn't drunk. Uh, and when the officers pulled up, I told them that I was dehydrated and that I needed to get water for my dog and myself. And I would let them know that he was my registered emotional support animal. I believe I let them know that twice. And they separated me from my dog, and they cuffed me, even though I said, like, I wasn't a danger to anyone. I said I would comply with all of their instructions, but I needed water. Well, they cuffed me immediately, and even though I wasn't a threat to anyone, I wasn't, doing anything. And he asked me if I had any meth, and I was honest because I had had meth within the previous 24 hours. I said yes, I had. I think I said I had had some earlier or the day before. I can't remember what I told him, but I told him I wasn't high on anything. Um, I said that I was dehydrated, and I told him that I lived nearby and that I could, if they wanted to drive me home, that would be great. I thought they were going to give me a ride home, and they opened the back of the police car, and I literally was being shocked to the point where I was brought to my knees. And I believe it's very apparent. I wish I could get the video for it. I don't have the money to get that. I'd asked my father. I copied him on the email for I think it was like a $20 or $40 for the public records request. And unfortunately, he didn't respond to it. So I don't have the video for that right now. But um, it's very apparent, I think, that when someone's going, and I told them I was being shocked, and I didn't mention the gang stalking stuff, but I was brought to my knees. They gave me a few sips of water, and they put me in the back of the police car, and then they closed the water bottle and put it in the door. And I was already handcuffed with my hands behind my back, and there's no way I could have opened that bottle of water or have gotten to it. And they only gave me a few sips of water, and they kept fucking with me, and they kept asking me, they were smiling and everything, and they kept asking me some questions. And like, who do you live with? And I said I lived with Alan Stewart. I said he was a constable. I said I can take you there. It's over on Revolutionary Trail. I was like, it's just like a minute away from here. And I thought they were going to take me, and they spent forever. And then they were like, well, what's Alan's middle name? And I'm like, I don't know. And in my head, I'm like, what the fuck does it matter what his middle name is? And these people kept making it seem like a what would you do moment. And they would do the same again in January with the Manor Police Department. But this was with the Travis County Sheriff's Department. So for some reason, we're sitting around forever, and they pull over onto Tower Road into this new neighborhood. And I'm just sitting in the back of the cop car, just baking. And they kept making it seem like a what would you do moment. And they also made it seem like, it was on, that, I was going to be carried away and rescued. It was finally going to be over because this is like the final what would you do moment. I just wanted to go back to the house. And then an ambulance came. And before I know it, I'm being put in the ambulance. And one of the officers, when I was put on the gurney and put in the ambulance thing, he tied my arm down, and he tied it like really tight and like aggressively. And he smiled at me in a way like, yeah, that hurt, didn't it? Yeah, I hurt you. I mean, he didn't say that, but like, that's how I read into his face. I mean, normally if you tie someone down, you don't hurt them, and when you do it aggressively enough, and you're like that, uh, I think it's pretty apparent that you knew that you hurt them, and that you enjoyed it. And so, like, at the very least, it's a prime example of how the police treat people who have a medical condition, whether it be mental or physical. Because I was literally seizing in front of them. I was like, "Ugh." And it's like, that's not a symptom of anything. I mean, maybe of epileptic seizures. And again, I told them I was dehydrated, and they didn't give me any liquids except for a few sips of water. And they seemed to be, very happy about putting that bottle of water out of reach and like joking around. And then I think there were about 5 officers there total. And then when I was in the ambulance after the guy tied me down and smiled at me, um, uh, I looked over at the IV bag. I was like, "Can I have some water?" He's like, "I've got an IV hooked up." And I looked over at the IV, and it was already empty. And I'm like, "Did this guy just hook an empty IV?" I mean, I don't know how quickly a saline IV goes through someone, but I found it to be very strange. And I was like, "It's empty." And I was like, and in my head, I'm like, "Why?" I was like, "Why can't I just get some water in my mouth? My mouth is parched. They're shocking my mouth and they're dehydrating my body at an accelerated rate." And so I believe I was given a shot also to sedate me, but I was taken to St. David's Central near 30th Street, near Hancock Center, which is the very place where Red River Family Practice is. And I was kept there for observation for a few hours. They did a tox screening, and unfortunately, the tox screenings never show the levels. It only shows positive or negative. It only shows that you've had substances, within the past, week or 2 weeks, depending on which substance it is. But in any case, I didn't have my phone on me. I didn't have any. I did have my shoes on that. Oh no, I didn't. Or did I have shoes? Oh no, I didn't. I don't think I had. No, I didn't have shoes on that one. And so I just had a t-shirt and gym shorts. And so when I was released, like later in that night, um, I was given a bus pass, but like I dropped it or lost it. But like I didn't know how to get back to Manor. I don't know if there's any buses that go to Manor from that area. But I basically walked um, through Mueller, and then eventually I was walking down East 290, and in hospital socks, the ones that have little pads on the bottom of them. So I literally walked from Austin to Manor in hospital socks, and then at one point, like I had taken them off, and like the last, I don't know, 10% of the walk, I was in barefoot. And then the same officer showed up because apparently I forgot that it was a left turn. I thought it was a right turn. And I kept going down some roads, and I was like, I should be around here somewhere, but I was on the wrong side. I should turn left instead of right, and so I looked confused, and so I was standing on a corner, and then the same officer showed up. Most of the same officers showed up, and the one that asked me what Alan's middle name was there, and he's a jackass, and he put me in the back of his cop car and drove me home. And there seemed to be a concerned younger officer there who wasn't there. I don't believe he was there the day before. And he seemed concerned when I went with the other officer. He had a look of concern. Like he offered me a ride, and the other guy was like, "No, I got it." And the other officer was like he seemed concerned that the guy was taking me home. Not the fact that I was being taken home, but he just it seemed to be to me. I interpreted it as this cop knows that this other cop is sketchy, you know. And I probably should have gotten a ride with the other one, but it didn't matter. He followed us, and then I went in. And then during the walk before, they had made it seem like they always do this thing like, oh, it's about to be over, everyone knows the truth and blah blah blah. And so like, and Alan was like, oh, pack your bags. He didn't have a talk with me. He didn't say that I was being kicked out. Tom was ordering me lift. Like I literally did not know I was being kicked out of the house. And then Alan apparently like afterwards I found out, oh, I am being kicked out of the house because Alan was like, oh, illegal drug use or whatever. And which is, you can't just kick someone out like that. But I didn't know I was being kicked out. And I went to a hotel for a little bit, and then after like a few days, I was able to talk my way back into the house. But Alan does meth, and Tim does meth, and um, so it's like it seems very hypocritical to me that would happen. And so I moved back into the house. He upped the rent a little bit. Tim had gotten arrested too the day before because he had a warrant out for his arrest for probation violation or something like that. And they had taken him to jail, so he was in jail for like I think 3 weeks, and then it got dropped.